Good morning, everybody. We are starting in 2 to 3 minutes because many people are still connecting. Thank you. Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm back. Indeed, we can start now this webinar. So today we'll present you the EGEC Market Report 2020 about the main results of 2020. Today we will focus on electricity, and on Thursday we'll focus on heating and cooling. As you know, the market report is composed in 3 parts. A full report with annexes available only for members, where you can find all the details about the power plant, the details about the suppliers, the manufacturer, the depth, the temperature, etc., etc. And the key findings is a summary available for everybody. The agenda of today is that I will do a presentation of electricity market developments. So what happened last year. After, we are happy and glad to have Sergio Morlacchi from Exergy presenting a case study of different plants with Exergy turbo generators that we plan to install in Turkey. Finally, we will have from Fausto Batini outlook on the upcoming developments in Italy. It was planned to have Carlo Bicudo from EDA about Azores and Portugal. Unfortunately, in last minute, he cannot be with us. So we are great anyway to have Fausto Batini with us today. And I remind you that on this Thursday, on the 17th of June, same time, 11 to 12 Central European time, we'll have the market report with the key trends in heating and cooling, with Thomas Garabetian presenting the market development, representative from UNOSA, representing a case studies in largest district heating in coal mines in Spain, and a description of a chapter in innovation in drilling techniques by Mikko Santic. We launched the idea last year that 2020 would be the start of a geothermal decade. So let's see what happened in 2020. First, let's see the milestone reached in Europe. So now we have 130 geothermal power plants installed. We could say that it's a sustainable development, mainly driven by the Turkish market. You can see that today the Turkish market is about 1.7 gigawatt electric installed. Briefly on heating and cooling, as a general overview, we have now about 2 gigawatts installed of geothermal district heating and more than 2 million heat pumps installed in Europe. The market report from EGEC is covering all the different geothermal energy technologies. When we speak about electricity, we combine all the different kind of plants, systems, and different kind of turbines provided. You will see some highlights today on the trends in turbines. So in terms of production, last year we have seen 8 new power plants in operation, representing a capacity of a bit less than 165 megawatt electric, and all of them last year have been launched in Turkey. What we can notice is that, as highlighted for the last 10 years, Turkey has been the hottest market in Europe. We see that it's a continuous development. The number of plants from this year is also representative of some plants which were prepared maybe some years ago and now are operational due to some, of course, delays that can always happen in some plants. One thing that we can notice also, if you are familiar with the Turkish market and what it was 10 years ago, the 8 plants, if you divide with the capacity, you can see the size of the plant, which is a bit lower than what we have in the past. I don't say too much on that. We will see the results in the next slide. We were proposing and promising you to have a presentation about Azores. Unfortunately, Carlos Bicudo from EDA is not with us today, but I have some slides for you about Azores. So what you can see is that it's nice also not to go to Azores virtually after the pandemic and ahead of our summer travels for holidays. So Azores is 9 islands. It's composed of islands in the Atlantic Ocean, and you can see from the photo of the landscape, there's some volcanology and some volcanic activities in there. It's about 150,000 inhabitants, and there's issues for an island, so insularity, problem of supply, energy dependency on hydrocarbons, and impacted with the change in oil price recently. Of course, being isolated in the Atlantic Ocean, you have also costly infrastructure for energy. What is interesting to see is that you have 5 decades of development there. And you can see that geothermal is representing about today 25% of the overall electric consumption in these islands. So there's still a potential to develop, of course, together with other renewables, because you still have more than 50% fossil fuel based electricity production. So we see there's a potential for further development. Interesting to see that it's a 5 decades of development, starting exploration in the 70s, and plans of, you see, first plant of 5, expansion to 13 megawatt, a new plant of 10 megawatts, and still we have seen recently new drilling, so some more plants are expected in a near future. In terms of development indeed in Azores, so we have seen there's a drilling underway for geothermal expansion project to increase the total capacity to 30 megawatt. And the drilling, you can see the photo is from November 2020 there. What is interesting to see from the EDA, so the utility there, is that geothermal is already proven as a cost-effective option. So the issue of decarbonizing the power sector in Azores, still 50% dominated by fossil fuel, geothermal can be a real solution to be further developed. So there's expectation to further development in Azores. It was just a briefing about Azores in 3 slides. You can see it's not a lot of population, but still they are facing issue of decarbonization of the power sector, and geothermal will be one of the solutions. 5 decades of experience already there, and projects are still ongoing. Now let's back to the European landscape. What you can see in the 2020 EGEC Market Report is also an analysis of the last 10 years, so the last decade before planning the next decade. You could see that 10 years ago, Italy was the number 1 in capacity with 800 megawatt installed, but for 10 years, the development has been a bit slow, and maybe when we give the floor to Fausto, you will see what is planned for the next 10 years for Italy. Iceland, surprisingly, quite developed already with more than 500 megawatts installed 10 years ago, but they have continued their development. You can see for Iceland, for the last 10 years, we have seen several developments, so it's good to see that. Turkey is impressive. Turkey, less than 1 megawatt 10 years ago, now nearly 1.6 gigawatt, a lot of development, so really, really interesting countries for geothermal power plants. Others, you can see some highlights. So of course, I mentioned Azores. So it's all the capacity in Portugal is in Azores. Interesting to see two newcomers in the last 10 years. Croatia with a 17.5 megawatt turbine inaugurated 2 years ago, and Hungary also with the smallest power plant, 3.35. In Austria, it's the same plant for the last 20 years, so no real development. Interesting development in Germany. Now they reach already the capacity of 30 megawatt. What I say interesting, Germany, because many main plants are combined heat and power plants, so also new kind of business models and approach to the market design. For France, the majority of the capacity is in Guadeloupe also, like for Portugal, is not in the mainland, is in overseas, and we have seen some development also in Alsace region. To look at now in the perspective of development and planification of next plan, so you could see that there's continuous development in Turkey. There are about 70 plants installed, but you have nearly more than 20 plants in development or under investigation. In Italy, you could see that the development is a bit slow for the last 10 years, but you have a lot of projects in the pipeline. I don't say too much because it's a presentation of Fausto later. Germany, interesting to see also, a lot of projects in the pipeline, same for France, Iceland, and Croatia. You could see in the market report the details country per country. Interesting to see. We expect, it was already in the market report 6 years ago, we expect a lot from Greece. The drilling has been postponed due to COVID-19 in some Greek islands, but we expect a lot of, in really a near future, of development in Greece. On the graph on the right, you can see a bit the resource temperature in some selected countries. So it's one of the highlights we give also in the market report. What is the temperature used and the brine for the different power plants all over Europe? What we look at also for 10 years is what is the trend in terms of turbines. And what is interesting to see is, of course, the capacity, having in mind that the flash plants are always bigger, always more than 20 megawatts. Same for the dry steam plant and binary. But what you can see is that for the last 10 years, it's true for the last 20 years, the growth in geothermal power plants in Europe is coming with binary cycles. You can see in terms of turbines, but also in terms of capacity, it has been the main development for the last 10 years, and I say also for the last 20 years. So this is really a big trend. What we see also in terms of turbine manufacture, it's a lot of competition. You have been a strong competition during the last 10 years. You could see that Ormat last year continued his leadership with new plants installed in Turkey. Ansaldo Tosi is the traditional supplier for Italian power plants, but we have seen for the last 10 years few new plants. Exergy, I don't say too much because we have Sergio presenting the case studies of Exergy, but you could see that Exergy has developed for the last 10 years quite a lot of plants and still continuing to develop plants. Same for Atlas Copco, Turboden, and main providers in binary cycles. For the flash and high steam turbine manufacturer, indeed, for the last years, we have seen the slowest development. What we highlight, and I will present that briefly, is also an international and a global picture. It's interesting to report about the IRENA Renewable Cost Database published last year about the competitiveness of geothermal electricity. And you can see two things from this graph. You can see that indeed the geothermal cost for the last 10 years, not in Europe, but globally, has slightly increased. It means, from our understanding, that probably the best resources have been used in the past. And now we are looking at resources more at medium temperature, low temperature. So maybe it explains why we have been a slight increase for the last 10 years. The second thing, and the most important thing to underline, is that 10 years ago we were one of the most competitive energy sources, and now we are still one of the main competitive energy sources. So also we have seen a slowest increase, and with research and innovation, we are quite confident we can be back to more competitiveness, but we are already still competitive, without highlighting that we are still one of the best solutions for baseload production. What we have seen globally, and you know this picture, is that indeed we have seen a slow development of geothermal in comparison with other renewables all over the world, and it represents here in this map, it's my last slide, what is today the situation globally. USA is still the number one with 3.7 gigawatts installed. We have to see what will be the next 10 years for USA. Of course, they have a big potential, but we have to see there's still some uncertainty on the future development. Indonesia, Philippines, a lot of was expected for the last 10 years. Developments are there. We have about 2 gigawatts, but we expect much more from these two countries. And for sure, the market conditions are today one of the main barriers for the development in these countries. Kenya is an interesting country. We have to see what will be in the surrounding countries, in the neighboring countries around Kenya development. But what is interesting to see in a global picture is Turkey, which is now really becoming in the top 5, and we expect further development in Turkey to making them also probably even better in the ranking. I thank you for your attention. As I say, you can find all the market report data and analysis in the document we published last week. Sorry. And now I'm giving the floor to Sergio Morlacchi for having a case studies on Exergy power plant in Turkey. Sergio, the floor is yours.
Yeah, can you see me? Can you hear me?
Can hear you. You're present, and the floor is yours.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes, in full screen mode. Floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Nice to meet you. First of all, I would like to thank EGEC for the opportunity to present our project and our results in 2020 within this webinar. Let me quickly introduce myself and the company I work for. I am Sergio Morlacchi. I'm working since many years in Exergy, and I'm currently covering the position of business development. Today, Exergy International is one of the most reference company providing ORC technology with a special focus on geothermal, as we see in the numbers of the installation that we had in the past. Since 2020, we are within an industrial group, TICA Industrial Group, which is our mother company, helping us in developing top project and in allowing the development of new business. Today, I'm here as I want to present you the results achieved in 2020 within the geothermal application. We delivered and commissioned 3 projects. All of them are in Turkey, which is one of the most growing country, as previously explained, in the geothermal field. The overall installed power is 47 megawatt gross for this 3 installation. And step by step, plant by plant, I would like to explain the technicalities and the details of this installation. So the first one is GREENECO 6 unit. GREENECO 6 is the last of a cluster of 6 geothermal unit developed by GREENECO. The overall power is totalizing more than 100 megawatt, and all of them are providing energy with the Exergy turbine and Exergy technology. This last project commissioned and delivered in 2020 delivers 26 megawatt to the Turkish grid. It is fed by a brine stream of 1300 ton per hour and 1500 ton per hour of steam plus NCG. So The geothermal resource is recover energy from geothermal resource from both brine and the steam. The average temperature for this, in this case, is 160-170 degree. The solution, as you see from the pics, is air-cooled, and the particularity of this unit is that we deliver a project with, we designed the project with one pressure level. So we have one evaporator with one pressure level feeding two different expander, and the two different expander are driving one double-ended electrical generator. The overall gross efficiency of this unit is 14.5%, and if we consider the net efficiency, we can say it is 13.1, 13.2%. The next unit I would like to present to you is RFC. This is a standalone unit from this customer, which is thinking to develop more, but for the moment in 2020 we delivered one unit. The size is 12 megawatt, and also in this case the resource is brine and steam. This is quite less. It is 850 tons per hour of brine and 27 tons per hour of steam. Also the temperature is colder, is about 145 degrees C. The solution is air cooled, and in this case we have only one turbine, but we exploit the geothermal resource with two pressure levels. So we have two evaporators delivering to the turbine the organic fluid at two different pressure levels, feeding the same expander with two different inlets. There is the main inlet at high pressure, and there is a second inlet within the disk at average number, stage number, at a lower pressure. In this case, the efficiency is about 14%. The third unit that we commissioned in 2020, it's a little bit different from other one because it is water cooled. It's the only one water cooled that we delivered in 2020. The unit is quite the same size of the RSC. It's 10 megawatt electric, and the particularity of this unit is that it's full brine, full pumped brine. So there is no steam delivered to the plant, and the geothermal resource foresee that the brine is pumped from the well. It exploited within the ORC circuit, and then is reinjected without any emissions of greenhouses gas. So in this case, the arrangement of the ORC cycle is with the two pressure level and the two evaporator, and again one single turbine. From the peak, you can see quite clearly that there are two inlet pipe in the expander entering a different stage position. A little bit of background about the Turkish market. All these initiatives I described them are for Exergy, the last one, which investors and developers developed with the benefit of the incentive schema, which in the slides I called the old schema. This old schema was allowing the owners to deliver energy, having the benefit of more or less 125 US dollar per megawatt hour. This price was split between a base tariff, which was 105, and a local price content, which you benefit if you have made in Turkey equipment in the plant. Exergy has a branch in Turkey which allows to get the full benefit of the local content price. So let's say that our customer can have the benefit of the 125 US dollar per megawatt price. This price is valid for unit and synchronized to the grid of the Turkish grid within the end of June 2021. From July 2021, the institution in Turkey approved a new schema, which is similar in terms of mechanism. So there is a base price and there is a local content price, but there are two main differences. The first one is that the tariff guaranteed is not anymore in dollar, but is in Turkish lira. And the second one is that the local price content rules are different and are, I would say, difficult to achieve, and foresee also different components. So in order to get the full local price content, the effort by the technology provider and the investor is more, and the results in the overall price is substantially, in any case, lower. So if we consider today the US dollar exchange rate, we have almost 74 US dollar per megawatt, which can vary according to the exchange rate, but it's in any case limited to the price cap of 86 US dollar per megawatt hour. So what we see is that the rules and the mechanism behind the geothermal energy market internally will change a lot. We expect that the investor and technology provider will need to cooperate more, will need to do more effort to allow new initiatives, which in our opinion could be feasible, but need to be rethinked from the beginning, and the mechanism to develop new units needs still to be discussed and to be optimized to have the market allowance to make the initiatives. I would like to conclude my presentation presenting which are the drivers that in our opinion, the investors, the institutions and the stakeholders needs to recognize in the geothermal resource energy as a benefit. The benefit of the geothermal resource, in our opinion, are that it is full renewable, it is 24-hour stable, and in case of full brine plant with the binary cycle exploiting the thermal resource, they are also greenhouse gas emissions free. So these three targets, these three benefits provided by the geothermal resource needs to be taken account by the institution, which could build up an incentive schema that reward these three main benefits of the geothermal resource in order to allow the development of the initiative by investor and technology provider. That was all by Exergy, and we are available for questions if any. Thanks to everyone for listening.
Thank you very much, Sergio. Really interesting, and yeah, a lot of detail that we are looking for, that kind of details in a case study. So thank you very much. We are now giving the floor to Fausto. Indeed, there are some questions to Sergio, but we will have these questions in the last session for Q&A. So Fausto, first, the floor is yours.
Okay.
We had your presentation and we just lost it.
Is it full screen or not? No.
Yeah, we have not full screen. If you do that, we are.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Well, first of all, good morning, everyone, and thank you to Philippe, Dumas, to give me the opportunity to present some highlights on the upcoming development in Italy. For who of us that are not knowing me, I'm still working in geothermal sector since 40 years, more than 40 years actually. So, and I worked for several years for Enel Green Power, leading different position. And currently, I'm Chief Technology Officer of Magma Energy Italia, which is a development company established in Italy almost 10 years ago. I'm also part of the executive board of Rete Geotermica that I'm going to briefly explain to you what is it. Last but not least, I'm very honored to chair the ETIP, Deep Geothermal, European Technology Innovation Platform, and also co-chairing the implementation working group for deep geothermal in the framework of SET plan. So I will say that let's go to the what is the situation and possible scenario in Italy. I will start from a regulatory framework because, as you can see in the continuation of my talk, will be very critical issue. Well, the good news in 2010 was that the geothermal market was opened to new players, and also they tried to simplify the authorization process for licensing the new leases and also for environmental impact assessment. 1 year later, in 2011, a new legislative decree promoted development of pilot plants with a very small capacity, 5 megawatt, but using a total injection of fluids with zero emission during the power plant operation. That was very important. And this type of project were also incentivized by a supportive mechanism that were launched in the 2015. Last but not least, in 2012, a law number 134 classified the geothermal energy as a national strategic energy sources. So that's apparently it's a very encouraging regulatory framework that's made people very enthusiastic. So in a few months, about 120 applications of new exploration leases were filed to the different authorities in almost all regions, including Sardinia, Tuscany, Lazio, Campania, Sicily, and also some leases in the North Italy. According to the forecast made by UGI, Italian Union of Geothermal Italian Association, I mean, there were two scenarios. One, more aggressive in blue, and the other one more conservative. But anyway, the expectation was to reach about 7.5 or even 10 terawatt hour a year for electric generation, starting from about 5.25 terawatt hour. So in this context, some enterprises decided to establish a cluster that was named the Rete Geotermica, with the main scope to create a supply chain to enhance geothermal development in Italy, share the knowledge to develop environmental friendly technology, promote the use of geothermal utilization through public awareness campaign, and identify a sole caller for the relation with the institutional and private sector. So in order to, we expect to have a more easier pathway for development. The actual member are shown in this picture. They include developers such as Sorgenia, Graziella Green Power, Magma, and Renew, as well as engineering companies like Sintecnica or Hydrogeo, and also larger companies like Schlumberger, Turboden, and Exergy, for which cover the know-how that you can see in this slide. The Rete Geotermica operators are committed to develop only closed-loop geothermal power plant. That means even in case the temperature of the fluid is higher than 180, or even the content of the non-condensable gases exceed 5%. So applying a binary cycle power plant, we can build a project which include drilling from this pad which is adjacent to the power plant, and allow the total reinjection of the fluid without emission into the atmosphere. And also particular attention was dedicated to have the best landscape integration with the design, site-specific design. You can see only the rendering, because unfortunately no one of this project has been deployed yet. But as you can see, there are different solutions to have a very nice and very agreeable view of the power plant. In terms of development, what we expect in the next, at this point, 8 years from now, we expect that 200 megawatt could be developed with a 2025 project overall in Italy, and total investment of about 1 billion, including 800 million or more or less for in the drilling sector. 200 wells should be expected to be drilled, and about 500 million euros for industry sector, including power plant and turbine manufacturing, and also about 500 million for other uses of it, which be which means installation close to the new project. There are also a very important contribution to the public administration, estimating around 500 million over the 30-year period of concession, which include the annual fee for permits and concession, royalties, and also contribution to municipality for environmental offset. Last but not least, we expect to create at least 4 new permanent jobs, plus the temporary jobs that will be needed during the construction phases. Now, what is the status of the exploration leases? As I said, more than 120 applications were filed. Right now, there are 54 leases issued, released by the authorities. So less than 50% of the application was accepted. However, in very few projects, in very few leases, there were significant progress, because there is a strong opposition of local community committees against the geothermal development. There was a suspension of activity for moratoria in Tuscany and Latium region, suspension for definition of an area not suitable for geothermal development in Tuscany. For some leases, the authorization is usually only for the surface survey, not for deep drilling. And for some leases, the authorization is used for drilling deep well, but no assurance is provided for the release of exploitation concession. This it's not very easy market contest to operate, so that at this stage only 3 leases applied for exploitation concession. Let's have a look to the status of zero emission pilot project that I said in the beginning. There are projects launched by the Ministry of Economic Development. Well, there are 1, 2, 3, 4. All the projects that were launched, no one of them was able to get the final authorization, despite according to the enforced law, the time limit for releasing the environmental impact assessment and authorization is less than 2 years. After 7 years or even 9 years or even 10 years, like this was this project, there are no license already issued. A little bit better is the situation for the exploitation concession. There are only 3, as I said. All of them are sorry, yes. They are in Tuscany, and here the licensing process was more quick than at ministry level, though there are still some opposition with appeals to the trial by environmentalists or by local community, and the situation is not even here in this case is not completely established. So, as a final remark, we think that the geothermal energy development in Italy can significantly contribute to the achievement of European Commission 55 emission reduction by 2030. However, the implementation of the project is not progressing. As I said, for the complexity, slowness of the validation procedure, the overestimation of some environmental impact, which in some cases create concern in the local community, and the lack of the adequate supporting scheme incentive to promote the development and the use of geothermal energy. We are still waiting for so-called FER2, which is a governmental decree which we should assign some economic support scheme to geothermal, but this is still in the air, so we don't know when this incentive will come up. So I think this is all for my side. If you have any question, you can of course address to me, or maybe send a written question, and we will try to answer as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fausto. Really interesting, and already from your presentation we have some questions. But before, maybe I would like with you to highlight an initiative we have done together, is to set some recommendation for simplifying the procedures, notably some guidelines for environmental impact assessment. So maybe just some update to all of you. We need really your support. By end of June, we will send a recommendation with a public consultation in July and August. We ask full endorsement and your inputs during this period, but from September we come back to authorities like the Italian authorities with a solution to simplify the process and to have the authorization to develop geothermal projects. We have seen that there's so much possibilities to develop projects in a nice environment that we need to be allowed to do that. Can I ask also Sergio to also switch on the camera and the mic, because we have also some questions to you, Sergio. And the second thing also I want to highlight also, it's you mentioned de-risking project, and I invite all of you on the 28th of June. We are organizing a big event on establishing a de-risking instrument in Europe, but also globally. and we are currently lobbying the European Commission to have that established at a pan-European scale, so level. So if you're interested, I sent in the chat the information, but de-risking project indeed is a key topic. The first question is to you, Fausto. You mentioned zero emission power plants. So
yes.
Indeed, the question is, what are the mitigation measures indeed for avoiding CO2 emissions?
The mitigation measure, essentially, is that even as I said, in the case of steam-dominated reservoir, we will be able to use organic Rankine cycle power plant and to produce electricity, so without contact of the steam or geothermal fluid with the atmosphere. And after we will reinject in a single well, this in our case, the two streams, the one at the condensated steam and non-condensable gases. So in this case, we should have, nearly zero emission. There will be, of course, some minor leaks, but that's not a big issue for that. This is
in the answer, I mentioned the GECO project. You're also involved in GECO project. Can you tell us a bit more about what is doing there?
Yes, we are, as Magma Energy Italia and Graziella, involved in GECO project. GECO project is a project that was launched 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago, and there were established 4 test sites where to apply different technology for total reinjection of the gases. One was in Iceland, one was in Turkey, one was in Italy, but unfortunately we had to renounce to the project because we didn't get the authorization. Another one was in Germany, and several different approaches were adopted. For instance, in Iceland, there is a carbon capture of the CO2, which is contained in the steam. They already developed the technology through the Carbon Fix, which is now a company. Same application will be tried in Turkey. And as I said, in Italy, the approach was different. And we are working with Storage, which is a French group, and together with Storage and EFPN, we applied for a patent for this new technology for inject the water, the two stream in a single well. That's require some complicated, complex completion techniques for the well and so on. That's where we are.
Thank you, Fausto. Now I have 2 questions for Sergio, but more is one. Is you mentioned the 3 plants, and the question is about the efficiency. Although when we speak about efficiency, it's not really bad because it's not that we lose after the temperature. But what can you say about the efficiency of the plants? You mentioned the first 2 at around 14%.
Yeah, so the Turkish installation of 2020 are more or less around 14% of gross efficiency, and we have within the ORC 1.5% of consumption, efficiency lost in consumption. So the net ORC generation within the self-consumption of the ORC could be about 12.5. Then we needed to add the consumption of the geothermal gathering resource systems, which could be almost the same value as an average value, but need to be identified plant by plant and resource by resource because could be very different. For example, in the plant that there are full brine stream, for example, like KIPER, it is used to have submerged downhole pump in the production wells and the reinjection battery pumps. So in order to have gas emission free power plant applied to binary system, you need to increase a little bit the self-consumption of the power plant, decreasing the overall efficiency of the unit. But you have the benefit of not having any stream to the atmosphere. This is the current situation of the technology. So in order to avoid, where feasible according to the geothermal resource, to avoid the emission in atmosphere, you need to increase the self-consumption of the BOP.
Thank you, Sergio. There's a question mainly for Fausto, but maybe Sergio, you have a view also on that. It's in Italy, do you have also in mind a lithium extraction from the geothermal brine?
Yeah, potentially yes, but for time being, there are no project which foresee the lithium extraction. This would be an opportunity in, let's say, water-dominated system or liquid-dominated system to be in the Amiata area or even in other areas in Tuscany or even in Lazio, where the brines are the content of salts. I remember that more than 40 years ago, there was a place near Cesano, near Rome, named Cesano, where there was a very high concentrated brines, and not only lithium can be extracted, but also other minerals like sodium or potassium or even magnesium. And yes, there is the possibility, but for the time being, there are no projects under development on this.
Yeah, we have the same understanding as Fausto on the topic.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I do not have any other question. I don't know, attendees, feel free, and you can use the tool on questions if you want to have a last question. So if we look at now from the two case studies, Exergy, so you have focused quite a lot in Turkey. In your market development for the next years, you plan still to keep mainly your project in Europe, or you have also a view globally?
We are cooperating with prospect and customer for different areas, not only for Turkey. Of course, we are in Turkey. We are a relevant, strong player there, as we have a branch fully capable to deliver units. But we are also looking at a different area like Far East, Europe, Africa, and Central America, North America. We see in 2019 and in 2020 that geothermal initiatives are being developed quite a lot, but we also see that the difficulties of the geothermal initiatives are almost the same everywhere. What the difficulties that has been very good highlighted by Fausto are almost the same in different parts of the world. We see that investors and the developers are making huge effort to arrive at the end and having an opportunity to be exploited.
Yeah, indeed. It's why I think the conclusion of Fausto are really a basis to work all together as a sector. We need really to be strong and we'll be efficient for the next 10 years. We know that geothermal, as you mentioned also, Sergio, will be one of the solutions for the next 10 years for decarbonization of the electricity sector. And we have a big potential. When you see the number of leases in Italy, 150, and only 3 are still nearly there, but are still not there, there's an issue. So Fausto, what if you have one wish for next year, what will be your wish?
Well, my personal wish is that finally Tuscany regional will deliver the concession, and hopefully we will also receive the final FAIR 2 with adequate supporting scheme, and hopefully in 2002 we can start move ground and have a power plant up and running in 3 years. So that will be my best wish. But if I may take the 1 minute more, I would like take this opportunity to invite all the participants that are interested to join the working group that we established in the framework of ETIP DG, and because your contribution become quite important in order to move ahead not only the research and innovation area, but also to identify what are the priority of a developer and the stakeholder for having a real development of geothermal in Europe, as we all of us will like to have. Okay, thank you.
Indeed, Fausto, it's quite important, especially if you are interested in research and innovation, that we define all together the research priorities, and being on zero emission power plants, but being also on de-risking project with resource assessment and so on.
Yes,
and
combined application of
drilling.
Power,
yes. Yeah. There's a lot of, and we have seen already from case study of Exergy that indeed innovation leads really to good solutions for developing project. So I thank you, Fausto, Sergio, for really interesting presentation. I hope all participants you enjoy this presentation on the electricity market development for geothermal. As I mentioned, on Thursday it will be on heating and cooling with another view, because it's really promising what we are seeing in heating and cooling. I can also conclude asking you to mark your calendar. So this week, indeed, on Thursday, you have a market report. Next week, you have a Geotherm, the traditional trade fair in Germany, which is virtual. And we have Innovation Award on Thursday. On Friday, if you're interested, we present the GeoRisk tool, or you can assess the different risks associated with your project. And as I mentioned, on the 28th, we organize an international seminar on de-risking geothermal project. Thank you all for your attention, and I wish you a nice day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Ciao.